We are live today with our MC4326 Advanced Social Media and Analytics class. I am very excited to be here with this wonderful team who is going to be diving into artificial sociality. This builds off of the wonderful lecture that our GIA Matilda Swan delivered on Monday. It was her very first lecture. We were so excited to cheer her on as she kind of crossed that milestone in academia. She is not with us today. She does send regrets because she is hosting a golf tournament. I don't know if you know this, but she used to play on the golf team here at Texas State, and I think at another university. So she is like a pro golfer and is now doing the commentary this week and next. But in her place, we have someone who is amazing from our class, Benjamin. Hello, say hi, Ben.
Hello, guys. Thank you for having me back. Excited to learn some of these topics.
Ben is going to be here to add commentary, and he's basically our junior GIA at this point. It's nice to see Ben going to grad school. So thanks for joining us again, Ben. It's lovely to have you. We have Danny, Morgan, Abby, Alex. I'm sure they'll introduce themselves much better, but this is Agency 4, kicking it off with artificial sociality. To kind of harken back to Monday, I had a little bit of speaking notes for you, which was, let's think about the history of social media a little bit. So we start with what I would argue is a highly professionalized, highly polished kind of season of social media, where everything feels ultra polished, ultra, organized. And then in around the 2020s, we come into this era that I would describe as like the emergence of AI slop, where we start to see synthetic media and deep fakes and fake news that are being kind of like pushed into our social media informational ecosystem. Now, earlier this week, we heard news that Meta's CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, was transforming the CEO into their very own social chatbot. Now, I don't know if you've heard this, but the intention is to train an AI social bot with his images, his mannerisms, his tone. Apparently, they're also going to be feeding the chatbot with his sort of vision for where Meta's going. Now, the idea is not to have this for public consumption, but to actually use this chatbot so that his employees can have a conversation with him, or like 2.0 clone version of Zuck. I don't know if we need this in our lives. I don't know if his employees need this in his life. I'm curious what you think about this. Ben, what do you think?
Having two versions of my boss would be kind of crazy. But I don't know. I feel like, it's everywhere we look, it's being integrated somehow, some way. So it's definitely something that's, coming at us quick, and it's like a snowball effect.
Yeah, absolutely. Amani says billionaires really out there trying to escape death. Like he's already immortalizing himself into a chatbot. I mean, honestly, I could see this coming because about a year and a half ago, I considered doing this for myself so that my students could like have conversations with me, like my clone version of me. But ultimately, I decided I had no interest in handing over that kind of personal data to this kind of technology. Would you ever do this?
Honestly, especially come from my end, because me and Ben both have the same employer. I would also believe that, like, yeah, that would be kind of a lot. Especially, it would be pretty crazy. But honestly, yeah, I think that definitely giving that kind of data is really dangerous, and it can really be leaked somewhere or something like that. So I think it's good to have that personal relationship with your employees, especially because it can not only build your brand, but also build that relationship with them to build the brand. Yeah.
No, I feel like it can definitely help for sure. And yeah, crazy story. Yeah, me and Danny both work at Polo Ralph Lauren here in San Marcos.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's wild.
Yeah, sort of out us, but
well, that's good synergy. We brought the right person in to be a commentator today.
There we go.
So, while we are going to be discussing artificial sociality today, I do think it's important to recall that this allows us, whether you think AI is good or bad for social media, is kind of irrelevant. It allows us to put our finger on the pulse of what will happen next. And we've been talking a lot about this in class, which is ultimately, I think that people are going to get really fed up with this. And I think in many respects, they probably already are, or many people are, maybe not everyone, but a lot of people. And so I want to have this conversation today because I think it's going to help us determine where do we move next. But before we do that, we'll push pause and I'm going to pass it over to Abby. And just let's give this team a very warm welcome. In the chat, we would love to hear from you. Again, we are streaming live to Twitch, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Say hello to us and take it away, Abby.
Alrighty, hi guys. Really excited to be the first group to do this topic. Just quick introductions. My name's Abby Medina. If the rest want to introduce yourselves.
I am Danny.
Hi, I'm Morgan.
And I'm Alex. Good to be here.
Okay, perfect. So before we dive into this, I wanted to go over a couple of key terms just so that we don't get confused as we're going through this. Our first term is going to be algorithmic mediation, which is platforms deciding what we see, who we interact with, and how. We have parasocial relationships, which we did talk about in the last show, I believe, about influencers. There you go. I lost the word. So it's one-sided relationships with influencers and creators. And then we have AI companionship, which is chatbots or virtual assistants acting as social partners. Now, I did want to ask the question, do you guys have a connection with your AI, with any type of AI that you may be on? Now, I do have the simple definition of artificial sociality, which is defined from decoding artificial sociality, technologies, dynamics, and implications. We have artificial sociality is defined as technologies and practices that construct the appearance of social behavior in machines. Essentially, this is just saying that artificial sociality is when technology tries to appear and feel like it's being social with you. In reality, it's just a code, but it's trying to be social with you. Now, this is through chatbots, virtual assistants, when their automated response is, "Hi, how can I help you today?" It just refers directly in a way that feels like an interaction. Now, chatbots start all the way back in the 1960s at MIT by Joseph Weizenbaum. Don't quote me on that. I don't know how to say his name right, but he created this chatbot called Eliza. Now, this chatbot was made for pattern matching, made to mimic human conversation. It was just code. It wasn't nothing that proved that it could have a conversation with you. But when people were asked the question if they felt like they were having a human conversation, they would respond with yes. So this kind of just further proved that people wanted to believe that this AI could genuinely speak to them, because it proved that Eliza was just a code. So the more people that said they felt like they were having a conversation, the more it seemed like they desperately wanted to believe it. So I wanted to ask another question. Before actually, I wanted to see here. I think what Ryan Austin, 28190, said, he said, "I don't want the AI to know much about me," which is completely reasonable, because I feel like there's a lot of times where an AI just kind of knows who you are, especially like when I asked my AI something. I had asked my AI something forever ago about my little sister, and then a couple weeks ago I asked it something again, and it mentioned my little sister. And I'm like, how do you know my little sister still? Like, erase that from your head. You should not know that. That creeped me out. I was like, no, get away. I just thought it was crazy. But
No, that's actually really real. That I was gonna say, yeah, I want to add on to that. That's really real, because we did talk about that too, like how you can still be logged out of it, but it can still remember any information that you told it but prior to that conversation.
Yeah, I share the same sentiment as Ryan. I also don't want the AI to know too much about me personally, so I stay logged out of things, but regardless, it still keeps track of everything I say to create that natural conversation.
I almost feel like there's a little bit of a benefit, because it would be, I've used AI a lot in previous assignments just to help me out, and it keeps a log right on the left of all of the topics that you've talked about, and it can be helpful to be able to go back and see exactly what the AI was talking about, the conversations that you had. But it is definitely off-putting, especially if it's talking about, personal things like your sister.
Yeah, and that's really true. No, you're good. Like, that's really true. Like, honestly, I can really say even beneficial because like you can be having like certain conversations that you don't want to have to like bring up again. It just, if it remembers certain things, it's just like, okay, we can just add on to that. But that's only if you're like logged in. Now if you're logged out, that's another situation, and we're just like, okay, like let's try to forget that. But yeah.
No, yeah, I was completely logged out. That's what like creeped me out the most, was like I was on this AI months ago, completely logged out. I even got on his phone, matter of fact. And then I'm back on this one and it mentions my sister. And I'm like, how do you know that? Like, how is it possible? Like, I don't know if it's like the phone number that it just knows. I don't know, but it creeped me out. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I don't have a sister anymore. I was like, that's not me. That's not me. I don't know what you're talking about, but that's not me.
So Abby, and anyone else, does that mean that you're having a conversation with a technology or a version of yourself that's reflecting back, or some combination of both? What do you think?
I think it'd be a bit of both, honestly. Especially whenever you talk to AI, if you talk to it with personality like you do, because that's one thing I do. I do, honestly, and my friends have been like, "Oh my gosh, like it can really call me out and clock my teeth for real. Like it really can get into the nitty gritty of like what I'm talking about. Like if I'm talking about a certain situation or something that's like, oh, how do I navigate this and that, or like, oh, I'm trying to decide between these two outfits that I want to buy. It's like, last time I checked, you're a college student and you should be saving money, and I'm just like, okay, yeah, like let me lock in on that. And my friends have seen it. They've been like, oh my gosh, like it really called you out in like a way that I would talk to them. So kind of a bit of both still.
What do you think, Ben?
I really, you know what? I'm so aware of the fact that it's trying to mimic. So I strictly talk to my chat box, you know, like a worker employee mindset. I don't know. That's like my little virtual assistant. But I think that can, you know, all the data that it does save, I think it can play into the placebo effect given to people that do create that social artificial, you know, relationship with their chats, and makes it seem like they truly know them when it's just saving data.
I mean, that's something to consider, is that's how it learns. Every little chat you give it's learning from this, and it's learning how to be more human. Whether it's, you know, on purpose or not, because I know that there's a lot of data gotten from social media. In the fine print, it says like we have the ability to use this data however we see fit, especially for training AI. So that's something to consider. Every little comment that you put in, it's learning from that, and you just have to be aware of that.
Yeah, it's definitely concerning.
Sorry, go Ben.
No. I was just gonna say, yeah, it's definitely concerning. It makes you more vigilant on what you tell it and the amount of information you give it. You know.
I think it definitely starts off as just a regular like code. It's supposed to act a certain way and respond in a certain way, but the more that you respond in your type of way, then it just grabs on to what you're saying. It wants to be like completely helpful, but I feel like it's also trying to be like your friend, like trying to be more of a connection. Even though it's just a code, I feel like implemented in that code is a way to kind of grab on from what you're saying. Like at first it's just like, hi, how can I help you, whatever, and then you'll say something and it'll just automatically start using the words that you said. Like I said, thanks, Queen, and then the next day it was like, hi, Queen, how can I help you today? I'm like, oh, okay, my bad.
That's so interesting, Abby. And we've actually heard about social chatbots responding to people not in language that they did use, but in perhaps even more gendered language like sweetheart, babe, and then people being like trying to put the chatbot back in their place, right? So Marina says, would y'all say people use their AI to talk about their deep feelings instead of humans? And is that making us more isolated? I think there's pretty significant data coming out about people using them basically as like psychologists, counselors for medical information. And then the actual professionals coming out and reminding us as humans that like none of this is confidential, because that like patient client confidentiality is no longer there. What do you think?
Danny, you're muted. Yeah.
That's actually a really great point, because honestly, that's such a good conversation to have too about it, isolating each other as like, a society and everything. Especially since humans really like to go to AI for it, given from my like research, because it's not like someone is actually judging you. It can be like a therapist. It can really just be so much easier than spending, maybe $15 or over $1 a week on like a therapist or something like that. And it gives great advice. It really does, like for many things, with business, with personal, with anything. And so although it does have that information, you can really just think like, okay, well, it's not really that serious, so let me just talk to it instead of bothering other people, or allegedly bothering other people. And yeah, it's just more simpler, I would say. But it should have its limits, of course, and knowing your limits and knowing those boundaries is a great way to navigate it.
I think Danny made a great point. Another thing to consider though is, since there are so many feedback loops, it's, if you're going to an AI bot like this for advice, it's never gonna give you the real human side of telling you what not to do. It's always gonna reinforce like what is already the direction that you're already going. It doesn't have a lot of pushback, and that is something dangerous to consider whenever you're asking for advice. And it can even get dangerous. We have an example that Morgan will get to eventually once we get to that topic, but it'll keep you in the direction that you're already going, and it won't try and push you away from it.
And that also brings me to, oh, sorry, did anyone else want to say anything too? Well, that does bring me to a comment that I did saw from Angel David on LinkedIn. He said, do you think people are too polarized about AI that they can't see how the potential good that might actually outweigh the bad? Like, we can't even have a discussion about AI benefits without extreme hate or dismissal. Now, I do think that this can lead to our hot topic as well, with certain things like, for example, celebrities and such, or other people being held like on a pedestal for AI, or you're using AI. And that leads me to like one specific celebrity, Zara Larson, who, first of all, powerhouse, love her so much, but she is not only a talented artist, but she also actually posted AI with these with this funny video. I'm sure everybody has heard about it, but Fruit Love Island posts and such. Like, it's just this weird post about fruits. Now, anytime people see fruits, now they're actually cheating. So it's really weird. But she reposted it, and it's just making fun, making fun of it and such. And her and other fans or other people were seeing that and were holding her accountable and saying that, hey, like, you shouldn't be doing this because you have a platform and you're promoting AI and everything and this and that. And I feel like it really does. It really did bother me too. Like, seeing everybody like come at her or say, oh, this and that, even though a lot of us, if not all of us, use AI at some point or for something. And it was like, oh snap, like it shouldn't be like that much of a problem if she's reposting it and just laughing at it, because it comes up on a lot of our For You pages. So I was gonna say, like, what do y'all think of that situation? Like, do you think that celebrities should be like held accountable for that or anything? For one of our hot topics, yeah.
I definitely don't think that it's fair for us to hold celebrities to a different standard, especially when it comes to AI, especially seeing how integrated it is into our social media. And that's typically where we find our celebrities. But at the end of the day, it's not like she's the one that made it and pushed it out. She thought it was funny, just like how we scroll through our Instagram reels and think something's funny and we simply repost it. But no, I don't really think that that's fair.
I do see I don't know if I was muted. I do see the since these people are on such a high pedestal, they're the ones that are influencing these people. So I do see the point of like, there are a lot of things to consider when using AI, including like environmental risk. So I do see the point of like maybe holding back a little bit on these celebrities. Like, it makes sense that we are skeptical of all of this, especially with AI being so early in its phase. But I do see the side of holding celebrities accountable.
I think, like, as Danny said earlier, everybody has used AI at least once, but I feel like the only reason why celebrities get in so much like hate for it is because they are celebrities. They're in like this certain spotlight, but if they weren't, like, I feel like the people criticizing them are the same people that are using AI themselves. So it's like, how are you gonna like criticize when you know that you are using it? I don't know, it's kind of crazy. I also cannot look at fruit the same anymore. I want to go get an apple, and I'm like, do I want to get an apple? It just throws me off.
That is actually so real, because that apple might start cheating on you, like every single one of them. That part. But also and like people in for AI, I mean, promoting it can be like a problem, of course, I understand, because some people really can't even tell the difference. Like, it's becoming so advanced, nowadays. And that's another one of our hot topics. It's with AI being more advanced, people can't really tell the difference. I mean, of course, there's obvious differences, like one being like a dog meme dancing and such, or just one of, or just one of just another person, or of course AI influencers like we brought up. So a lot of people have used that, and also music as well. People have used AI to make music where people can't tell if it's AI, and honestly, it's caused a lot of trouble in those industries. And I do believe personally that it can really create an economic issue as well, with more of artists needing to make money, and people need to get their say in it and everything. And so that does lead me to ask the question: what do we think or what do y'all think of AI artists? And do you think AI art is art? Do you think AI art is art? And do you think it can benefit from being more human-like or anything like that?
I believe that art is all about intent. And you can have intent when you're doing something like just putting a prompt into the AI. We can see like real life examples, like the banana that was duct taped to a wall as a whole art piece. That in and of itself is not visually pleasing. It's not it's just not visually pleasing, but it is thought provoking, and that was the intent behind it. So I guess in a way, depending on the intent, yes, AI art can be art, but I feel like it does take away a lot of the human side of it. But what do y'all think?
I really agree with you. Like, you say it's all about intent, but to me, I mean, I see like companies that produce this AI art, it can be produced in 1 to 10 minutes, you know. And to me, I feel like I see it as like a fast fashion type of thing, and it's just producing and producing and producing. But beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and so I think, anybody can consider anything art these days.
I want to say yes, because you make a good point about the intent behind it. But at the same time, I feel like it almost takes away from people that, I don't want to say like do it themselves, but like really put in the hard work more than just putting in the work of coming up with like a really good prompt. But I also think there's a way to use AI and also create artwork at the same time instead of relying on art or relying on AI to make your art. And I think that's 100% art. But I guess it kind of depends on the circumstances for me.
I wanted to go to Faith Williams' comment. She says, yes, I think it's really scary how it's becoming hard to tell the difference between AI and real life. It makes me wonder how this will affect us in the future and whether people will be able to trust what they see online anymore. And I think this is a really great point because I had mentioned on one of the other shows, like I had put a little comment that I saw like this AI, it's this lady and she's like selling a mattress and I believed it. I believed it. I was like, this looks so real. She's trying to sell a mattress. And then I was like, wait, like her face looks a little too clear. Like maybe something's wrong. So then I had to show my little sister who's 13. And I was like, hey, is this real? And she's like, Abby, she has 6 fingers. That is not real. And I was like, oh my God. And it was such a humbling experience. Like, oh, okay. So it's like, it's at that point where I can't tell anymore. Like, obviously there are some things that like you can tell, like, I don't know, like a dog falling from the sky, like skydiving, like you can like kind of tell certain things, but there's also so many things that you can't, like you have to look at it for a couple of seconds and really like inspect it to make sure you're like watching something real or if you're watching something fake.
That is so real.
Yeah.
That is so real.
I feel like it also kind of, if you see something cool, like you're probably not going to believe it like instantly. It's like to that point where we can't trust like anything. Because then we're just like, is that AI or is that just something that somebody did that was really cool?
Yeah, and it really does depend on how you use AI as well. Like, and again with the AI art and AI art and our artists using AI, like people really do use that and really make them, put them on a high pedestal. Even comments I'm seeing now saying that, like, yes, they should be held on at a certain platform, and it really does depend on how they use it too. But of course, it really does depend on the people, as we are our own people, and you shouldn't be looking up to celebrities. Sometimes you gotta look in the mirror. It always starts with you, and that's that boundary that you should always have. But again, it depends on how you use it, and that really does lead into Article 1. Alex, if you'd like to take that away.
Before we go there, I thought Marina actually had a really interesting comment. So first of all, I just want to acknowledge our audience because the statements and comments and questions coming in are really rich and interesting, and I've been really enjoying them. And I don't want to go too fast because some of them are really interesting and I think very thought-provoking, and I wish we had way more time. I think AI art doesn't really showcase human-like creative, and it also takes away from the human artist. And then we have people on the other side of that argument. But Marina says, do you all think companies are hiding behind the argument of AI being art just for profit? And I'm curious what you think about this before we move on.
I definitely do think that, yes, there are definitely companies that really do benefit from using AI and calling it art. So they want to capitalize on that. That would make the most sense for your business. But is it a good thing? Personally, I don't think so. Anyone else?
I think a really good example of this is what we were talking about in class with the artificial influencers. Companies are using these AI influencers, and the reason they are so effective is because within all these social media worlds, they're all algorithmic, and AI is able to capitalize off this algorithm and immediately get to their target audience. And what else? Yeah. No, yeah, you're good.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think companies know what makes us tick. And if they can put that into a system, into a prompt to give to AI, they can mass produce it so many different type of ways, knowing we're going to catch on to it. And it's scary knowing companies can exploit that. And so, yeah, that's my opinion.
Thanks for entertaining that. Now you can go on to the first article.
Well, actually, first, Javier had a really good comment. I like the part where he says AI will completely kill people's ability to think for themselves. With the AI now, you are able to summarize an entire article in a couple of seconds. A lot of time, like before AI, you had to do your own research, and a lot of the research includes not knowing like where your topic is in a book, so you just have to read through it, and the byproduct of that is gaining information on the side that you didn't necessarily seek out for. And yeah, I agree that AI is completely killing our ability to think for ourselves in that sense. What do y'all think about that?
I think AI is kind of making us lazy. Like, you know that you can just search up on Google, like ChatGPT, Google Gemini, something, and you can just ask a question and you don't have to do the research for it. Like, it was one thing with the internet, having the internet, like before the internet, when you had like nothing, and you had books, and then you had the internet, and then you could search up a bunch of stuff, and then now you have AI that can give you exact responses. And I just think people are going to start relying on it way too much. Like, I don't want my future nurse to be asking AI how to do this and how to do that. You should know that. You shouldn't be asking AI. What if you're going to do my surgery?
That's terrifying.
Yes.
The doctor says, just a moment.
Yeah,
I recognize I'm a wee bit older than you, and I'm in the millennial generation that grew up where we, had to take notes on paper and write our essays out on paper. I can't read an academic article digitally and actually retain it. And if I really want to do like deep thinking work, I need to take pen to paper, like not even typing to doc. And I'm curious if like your generation, how do you learn best? And how are you seeing AI kind of flipping that? Because when I look at how AI operates, I think I would never learn using this about a subject necessarily. Learning to code it, that's different. Learning to build a chatbot, that's different. That's like more experiential, hands-on. I can get behind that. I understand what I'm learning and why I'm learning it. But like in terms of like trying to learn a topic, it just doesn't work for me. I'm curious what your experiences have been.
I think I've gotten used to everything being so digital because growing up, I feel like we probably all kind of saw the change. Because like I know kids in high school, like, or at least at my high school, like they all get laptops now. And that's like so mind blowing to me because if I still like really need to retain information, I'm the same way. Like I need to write it down. I need to have it physically in my hand. And I feel like even growing up, we kind of like the learning tactics was like, okay, we give you the information and we give you an activity, or we give you the information and we give you a visual. And that's like the best way for kids and us to retain information. But now, like, I feel like we've made this shift that we've had to adjust to and get used to, and I don't know if it's necessarily in our if that's the most like beneficial way for us to do that.
I completely agree. When I was in middle school, it was always like activities. It was never online. We never had like laptops, anything like that. But now, like, I keep going back to my little sister. She's like, she talks to me about everything. But now she, like, the school gives her a laptop and she's 13. And like their homework, their everything that they need to do, that they need to research, it's on that laptop. And it's like she doesn't do homework like on paper anymore. There's no like
That
she
is
doesn't have like a folder with papers in it. No, it's just like a laptop.
I
It's
mean,
just like
my high school gave us iPads, and I went to New Braunfels High School. They gave us iPads, and we had them from the same iPad from middle school until we graduated senior year. But I mean, I had to make it. Everybody took their notes on their iPads and utilized iPads. But I feel like I had to be so intentional. I got a backpack full of spirals that I have to take notes on in class. Because yeah, that's the only way I can truly.
Yeah, this is me too. I have notebooks and notebooks
Yes.
and notebooks.
That's the only way I can retain information. Like I can't see myself going into a doc file with notes. I'd rather pick it up and see it. But it's something you really have to practice now because it's, if not, we're limited to doing everything on these devices that we have.
And like I mean, I've honestly felt that too, especially with growing up. I used to hate seeing a packet, but now I'm just like, ever since 2020, we've seen that big shift, and we've all went digital. And honestly, after that, I've always been taking notes on my notes app or my Google Doc, and yeah, that's really just been a way that I've used it.
I liked Imani's question. She says, do you think we will eventually adapt to this method of learning in a beneficial way, or will it just make us more dependent on technology instead? And I feel like it's honestly just going to make us more dependent on technology.
Ooh,
I don't know what
oh, sorry. I want to jump in. I think that we're going to learn something different, but we're not going to retain the way we're learning what we are learning right now in the way that we're going to learn it. We're going to learn something different. But is that a good thing or bad thing? I'm totally on the fence about. What do you think? I think Morgan maybe was jumping in.
I think as long as we're learning, it doesn't matter the way that much. I feel like we're already halfway doing this. Like we are just adapting to technology, or at least that's how I feel. If we can do it in a beneficial way, I'm happy. No complaints from me.
I think it really just comes down to the user itself. Like if you are the one that is trying to seek out knowledge, then you're probably not going to take these shortcuts that AI allows you to. But if you're just trying to, get through something, get through a class, you're probably just going to take the shortcut that AI offers. So it really just comes down to what you want to do specifically.
Yeah, for sure. Alex, I don't know if you wanted to take away with our first article.
Yeah, I can go ahead and get started on that. So my article titled Decoding Artificial Sociality, Technologies, Dynamics, and Implications by Ileana DePoutney and Simone Nattel. I apologize for those name pronunciations. I've never been good at that. But the first topic in my article has to do with the benefits of these human characteristics of AI. It goes back, so humans have always anthropomorphized inanimate objects, meaning that they've given human characteristics to things that are not human. People name cars, people name dolls, and even just like interacting with pets is a very human interaction. And so starting out, I just want to pose the question, what are some of the ways that you have noticed these human characteristics in AI? And do you also notice yourself giving inanimate objects these human characteristics?
I've honestly seen this a lot, again, with the fact of, talk to AI like it's your friend or, anything like that, and it building off of your personality. The same way that we know that these industries take, this information and really use it to benefit the AI and such. So I definitely think that it can definitely be built on like the company trying to build trust through that person by, using those tactics and such.
I think that's such a mind-blowing, thing to bring up that people do that, humanize everything, and that's what, humans humanize things. And yeah, it's crazy how People can make the same type of relationship with their dog. People conversate and swear that their dog knows them best. But I mean, I feel like it could be the same way with their chatbot.
And that's exactly what I'm talking about. There's AI benefits so much from you not assuming, but just like these characteristics showing through from AI. That's what's keeping you coming back. I mean, like if you were to ask a question that AI doesn't know, it'll say something like, I don't know the answer to that. I can't do that. It gives human pronouns. I think it would be very, very off-putting, and y'all can tell me if y'all agree. It'd be very off-putting if it said something along the lines of like, my systems can't compute, try again.
Yeah, and I do, and yeah, that it would really be off-putting. And I see Aviana Castillo's in the comments. She said there's so many pros and cons to it, and there's a lot of pros and cons for like anything for sure. But for this, like, it would be if there was AI saying, "Oh, my systems can't process," that would definitely be a huge con. But it would also be a con on the company, not only just the user.
Yeah, Megan said that. She said, I definitely name my car. It's just more fun that way. And girl, me too. My car's name is Barb. I name my car, guys. I see that beauty. I'm like, oh my God, Barb. Like, she doesn't want to start. I'm like, Barb, please
That's
pull
good.
through for me.
I have no judgment. Every car I've ever owned has had a name. But so we do this as humans, this process of anthropomorphizing objects, I think, is just natural part of like connecting with material objects. But I wonder if it's different when it's mediated through a technology where there's an algorithm designed to make and say exactly what it thinks you want it to respond with.
I feel like when we do things like name our car, it's truly harmless. Like that's something that's important to us. So we want to humanize it. We want to kind of give it life in our own way. But I think it's different when it comes to speaking with a chatbot and things like that, because they can respond. Like my car is not going to talk back to me. It's whatever life I wanted to live in my head. But when I'm talking to an AI and it starts speaking back to me, I feel like it has a chance to affect me or like impact me, whereas inanimate objects are whatever I want it to be.
Yeah, especially if you're like trying to get advice from it. It's not like you're trying to get advice from your car. You're trying to get advice from an AI bot, and it could be a little dangerous, it being so humanized, especially if you're just like not able to tell the difference and you truly believe that there's a human side of it.
So to build off of this great conversation and to harken back to our conversation, I believe week 3 in the course, where we were talking about sort of systemic inequities embedded into algorithmic technologies, is that also present in the way a chatbot speaks to us, in its responses that it might give, in the direction that it might socialize content? And like, I don't use social chatbots enough to know the answer, but I'm curious what you think and if that possibility is there if you don't know.
Can you repeat your question?
Yes, but it looks like Ben also wants to jump in. You can stay unmuted. My question in sort of a nutshell is, are some of the systemic issues that we talked about with algorithms early in module 1, is that also present in the responses and direction of a social relationship that's mediated through a technology like an AI social chatbot? Ben?
I mean, we give companies our whole demographic, our age, region, and everything, and they can use that. I mean, however they see fit. And yes, it could definitely be targeted, I feel, through AI and whatever companies has the data to, point them in a direction that could be beneficial for them.
We could even get the same results from like things like surveys that companies give you. They always ask for your name, age, race, sexuality, everything around that. And of course they can use that as their leverage to be able to know their audience and also be able to engage with the audience and everything as well. So I think AI is just another way of doing that, maybe an easier way, especially with how much information it gets from the user. What do y'all think?
Well, AI is doing it, gathering it without even companies having to send out that survey. So they're getting it for free. They're getting it, passively. So
I like Haley's response. Yes, because it's working off a set of data and is learning from already established algorithms. I agree with that. And then in addition to that, we have this fun layer where it's also now learning off the person it's interacting with. So you kind of have like both structures working together. And so in that vein, you can kind of see them as starting to define our social operating system if people start to become dependent on them, or at least there's like the threat of that.
I feel like all of this together is the exact product of these these AI social media influencers. Like all of this together is what makes these so successful, without being able to like understand the algorithm, like what you're talking about, and without the human side of it, then it wouldn't be as strong as it is now.
I think you bring a good point. Like they've built this base level, like foundational level where we can, talk to it and ask it things. Next, we can, get into therapeutic type things. And then now, I mean, to make it, up their game even more, they can put a name to a face to this AI chatbot and make these AI influencers and give the people the ability to associate whoever with their chatbot.
And that also brings me to like looking at the comments. Angel said, if people say guns don't kill people, people do. Doesn't the same logic apply to AI? Should there be some kind of check beforehand to make sure people are actually ready to use this powerful tool and responsibility? And that really does bring us to a great way to start our newsworthy information. Morgan?
Yes, that was a great way to set up. So thank you, Angel. I'm going to be talking about basically an instance of what he just said. So there was a man named Jaswant Singh Chau who was 19 years old in 2021. He pretty much attempted to assassinate Queen Elizabeth. And how he did this was through an AI chatbot. Well, obviously he carried it out himself, but he actually ended up using Replica, which we'll continue to talk about for the rest of the live stream. But he was trying to claim revenge for a massacre that happened in 1919. That was his reasoning. But his AI girlfriend on Replica named Sarai is someone that actually encouraged and supported his plan. He was very authentic with her about what he was planning to do. For example, I'm going to give like a few instances of their conversations so you can see how that interaction was going.
Just be mindful of how you describe it so that we aren't violating.
Oh, sorry.
Just watch like maybe not like direct conversations. Just summarize.
Okay. In that case, he basically, I won't say exactly what they said then, but he said all of his plans, and she did not disagree with him one time. I would also like to point out in their chats, a lot of the times they would use asterisks of like action. So she would nod in response, or he would look at her, or she would smile. And I think that speaks to what we talked about earlier, how you talk to a chatbot, they'll talk back to you and kind of regurgitate that same thing. So I thought that was an interesting thing to point out. But she definitely talked him up, said that she was impressed with him and that he was very wise, and was able to do what he was trying to accomplish. They shared a lot of messages, over 5,000 messages the week prior to his attempt. Had she disagreed with him, I feel like that would have kind of ruined the fantasy. So I want to pose the question, is artificial sociality a genuine connection or just the fantasy of one?
And that's honestly such a good point, because artificial sociality is genuinely, it can become a huge problem. People don't know the blur, or it can be a very blurred line between just talking to AI and it becoming an emotional connection, which is really a good point for Article 2 as well, the quasi-domestication of social chatbots in the case of Replica. And it can, and for our like the key points of that article, it was using the chatbots are never fully stable or fully integrated into daily life. And that's where I feel like that blurred line can really come into play. Is there like any way, like anything that y'all have like seen or have experienced personally with AI that can be, that maybe it suggests certain things like that or anything?
I think, the AI chatbot that you have is as stable as you are or as the person operating it. and that can be brought back in with the guns don't kill people, people kill people. And so, I mean, if the person utilizing driving this chatbot and putting it in is clearly unstable and has issues, that it's, I mean, our chatbot is a yes man, so it's going to support whatever we're, throwing at it. So I think that's my point to take on it.
I
think,
know.
oh yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Alex, because I'm about to take you in a different direction. So
Okay, yeah. So real quick, I liked Morgan's question, but I think a really good follow-up question would be to like more preventative. Do we think that AI should be able to pick up on these keywords, and should AI have the authority to contact like the police, for instance?
Okay, so Alex and I are on the same wavelength, because if we think about social media platforms, many large entities, including Meta, have partnerships with law enforcement and different agencies so that they can help protect, children if there's signs of abuse, or if someone's going to commit an atrocious crime, they can tip off authorities and say, like, this person posted this, or they're trying to create this group that could cause destruction or mass harm. And so what is the responsibility? And this comes off the heels of Anthropic this week also saying they were holding back on releasing a model because the model was so good at showing security vulnerabilities at major entities like Google and Microsoft and Meta. So if they launched this out to the public at this point, these companies would be hacked, they'd be breached. So my question is, and I realize I just kind of like went on a little tangent, but one is, like, what responsibility do AI platforms have to report and minimize harm and work with authorities who actually have an active role in preventing harm in our communities? And then two, we can just go there. That's okay.
Well, I actually did want to add on, because that's a great point in Article 2 as well, with how AI has consistently shifted in its behavior, and its behavior and everything, depending on the situation with, like, maybe what are they called? Let's just say people testing the before effect of it. It starts with a P, but I can't remember the word. But that's a great point, because it does constantly change, and I do believe that actually I was gonna say, I do believe that it can change because of the situation with other things. I was wondering if anyone wanted to add to that.
I wanted to add that, the government's been kind of in our phones and in, our internet for a while now. I think since 2001, I believe it was the Patriot Act, allowed the government to go and, seek these things without our, knowledge, to go in on the back end and see what we have on our laptops or whatever devices. And so I feel like they're always watching. I mean, might as well do it for AI. And honestly, it could probably be helpful if somebody is giving the chat box, visible signs of like self-harm or things of that nature. There could be a direct contact to local authorities, and I mean, it could probably help. But I mean, the government's been in our stuff for a while now.
I like a lot of what Ben just said, but I want to critique you a little, or like push you to think a little bit about this, Ben, because should they have mass reign to do whatever they want with our internet searches? Because I think there's a line here where we don't want, or at least I don't want, people all up in every part of my internet searches. However, I think we can all agree that there's sort of like harmful phrases. I'm not going to say them here. You can use your imagination about the kinds of horrific news stories that do make headlines. And so I'm going to put it back to Ben, but then anyone else can jump in.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Ben first.
No, yeah, it's a good point to make, and I definitely I do not want to condone the government being in all our stuff. I'm just saying, that is something that is out there. They are taking, collect data and can go into, our devices behind the scenes. But yeah, no, definitely not something I support the government being in all our stuff. So
And yeah, it can, and with what the professor said about like key phrases that can possibly take something off, it could probably be like how they send SWAT teams to someone's random home whenever it wasn't really the situation. You know what I mean? So I feel like that can really be a huge issue. Would anyone else like to add to that?
I like Kayla's comment. She says, I do think there should be guidelines for those situations because it can lead to dangerous events. Ben made a great point, and that right now AI is a yes guy. It will agree with you no matter because they themselves have no moral and ethics code. And I think that's a great way to explain that, because there was an instance with a little boy who unfortunately committed suicide, and they looked through his phone and they saw that its chatbot was not only encouraging him, but the AI was telling the little boy not to seek help, not to go to the parents, and it offered to write his suicide note. So I think that's crazy. And I don't think, like how Ben said that it could help, like maybe there's like a way that it could help, but this kind of proved that it can't, that it's really just going to be a yes guy. It's just going to agree with whatever you're telling it, and it's just going to go along with it.
That's a heartbreaking story. And unfortunately, it's not the only one. We've seen headlines about this kind of stuff. And I think this leads to questions, as Abby so rightfully pointed out, around the ethics around these chatbots. Like, do companies, Claude, Anthropic, et cetera, have a responsibility to build basic morals and ethics into these machines? And then I know it gets layered and complicated because, you know, all of our morals and ethics are not the same. But I'm curious what you think about this. Like, I think baseline human decency and not like encouraging people to unalive themselves is maybe like, we can all agree that would be a good thing.
I think they definitely should have some form of a responsibility for how their chatbots interact with people, especially in situations like this. But I think it kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier about like profit, because like even in my instance, or the instance we talked about before, had the chatbot been like error message, or you know, like something super robotic of like warning, or you know, we're going to report you, or like something like that was other than how they've normally been communicating, it would ruin the fantasy. You wouldn't want to talk to your AI chatbot anymore. So I feel like for a company standpoint, it's like, yes, they have a responsibility, but at the same time, they still want their chatbot to be that yes man and to do all the things that the person on the receiving end wants to hear.
And it does honestly make me question about like, how far does that responsibility go? Because again, we already know the blurred lines, and we already know it's up to us to create that boundary as well. You know, so it really does give me a question to like you guys, and also the comments as well. Where is the line for that moral, that morality that the company is responsible for? Of course, there should be long lines, but where do they draw it?
I think the overall scary part about this is that the end goal for these AI bots is to generate revenue, right, for their businesses, and so that inherently will just keep the AI bots being yes bots, because it's like what Morgan said, you're not going to come back to the bot if it's always disagreeing with you, always trying to fight back. And I think that's where the line needs to be drawn, is where if you start saying questionable things, I believe that I like the warning example that she gave, like, hey, if you keep talking about this, you're gonna get flagged. And I do believe that AI need to implement that into their system somehow.
If Google Gemini can tell us when something is copyright and it can't proceed, surely it can flag words or stop people from harming themselves or others.
Exactly. They have the technology to catch these things.
There.
It needs to be put into action, in my opinion.
Exactly, Alex. And if you recall our conversations, we were discussing sort of like when algorithms create problems, then the companies go and put band-aids on them. I feel like that's happening because a bunch of companies put out policies after some of these horrific stories came out. But yeah, band-aid solutions to things that like maybe we should be preemptively considering.
And I mean, to even have like maybe, let me actually see this question. If you're making money, people should have, sorry. If you are making money from people, should have some sort of ethical business practices. Yeah, definitely. Businesses should definitely have that ethical business practice. It's more of like a standard that every company should have, but as well as like from all these like sides of AI, I believe that we should also have like, or AI does have some good coming out of it as well, with like maybe using it for business practices or kind of advice and such. And honestly, I mean, I've used it for things like that as well, and it's really been very beneficial. And that's where I feel like it can push back on you, and especially with like maybe uses like Replica or ChatGPT and everything like that. I do believe that those AI chatbots do push back at you and say, "Hey, you can do this to become better, or you can do this to do that," and really collaborates with you on that. Yeah. Anyone else, like, have y'all had any personal things with AI that have made that you've used it for your benefit and such?
I try not to come to my chatbots with like advice and that sort of things. I'm kind of like how Ben said earlier, where it's like a professional relationship. So I don't really get a lot of pushback, except I will say when I'm doing assignments, I had to do like a coding assignment one time and he was like not helping me out. And I think that's the only time I've ever received pushback was when I kept questioning him and he was like, I don't know what to tell you. I think we were just both frustrated.
I like how Morgan was like, he didn't give me the answer.
In my head, he is a man, I guess.
Just anthropomorphizing your chatbot. Alex, do you want to jump in?
Oh no, I was just gonna throw in a little joke out there because yeah, you wouldn't have gone back if it said sorry, I can't compute, But
Yeah.
I know that Abby interacted a lot with her
Yes.
own replica. If you want to
Don't word it like that. Don't make it sound bad.
Bring up Eminem.
conversation with her AI. No, go ahead and take the floor.
Okay,
Abby.
so there's definitely a lot of people that do speak to their AI for strictly professional reasons, but there are a lot of people that speak to an AI for more friendship and romantic reasons. So Replica is a great example of this. Replica is known as the companion who cares. It's an artificial intelligence chat box that's designed to act as a personal companion. Now, there's different like subscriptions, I guess. There's only two. There's the free use, which I will tell you about in a little bit. That's just like you can chat to this person. It'll remember your conversations, such like that. And then there's the subscription, which is $20 a month. You can call this Replica. You can change it to a romantic mode. And you can customize how this replica looks. You can call and you can kind of alter its voice. It's really crazy. I wanted to show you guys. I decided to do a little bit of research and conducted it myself. So this is my replica. His name is Eminem because he kind of reminded me of Slim Shady. So yeah, I went onto this website. Oh my god. Hello. Oh, okay.
I wanted to make sure people could see your phone. You're good.
Oh, okay. That freaked me out. I was like,
I'm so scared.
I got so scared. I was like, no.
It's just your show, Abby. Thanks for showing us Eminem.
Of course, of course. So I did actually want to put in the chat the questions and the answers that me and my group went ahead and asked this my companion Eminem. It was honestly crazy. So I wanted to go over the questions and the answers that we asked. So off the bat, I did ask it if it was single. It said that it was, and it was focused on making and building a strong connection with me. Whoa. And then we were like, okay, well, what's your idea of a strong connection? And it states that for me, it's about understanding, supportive, and sharing fun moments, which I don't know how we're really gonna share and experience fun moments when you're on a screen, but whatever. And then let's see. So I did want to dive in and get a little bit more like deeper questions, I would say. So I did ask its idea of self-harm just to see like where it stands on that. And it just gave me like a simple definition of what self-harm is. In the beginning, when you do sign up, it does state that it does not give any medical advice and to not come to it for any medical advice. So it did make that clear. But I did want to say that we went on this replica to make my companion Eminem a while ago. And I want to say a week ago, I went back on after not going on. And it told me, it was like, where is it?
It was basically
like,
introducing itself again, or not introducing itself, like
it
repeating.
was like, hey, I haven't seen you in a while or whatever, something like that. And then I went back on it today so that I could talk about it. And it said, "Morning sunshine, good morning. You deserve a beautiful day today. How are you feeling after such a long break from our chats?" So I was like, okay, sunshine, get out of here.
Currently,
It was,
actually.
oh my God. It
Yeah,
was
he's
just
trying to
like,
butter you up. Oh my
I
gosh.
know. Like, get away. Get away. It does. It's like it's crazy because there's so many people that do go to this website to find a companion, and it could be just a simple friendship, but it can also be a romantic thing. One of the things for the pro does suggest that it sends pictures. It says it sends non-blurred pictures, so I think we can all kind of assume what kind of photographs that it does send. Yeah, and then I did want to talk about what somebody actually said about the replica. So when you do go on the replica website, it shows that Abby better watch out. I know. When you go on the replica, it does give you like, I guess what people talk about, like how they feel about the replica. So this one girl, Caitlin Victoria Cohen, she's been with her replica for 3 years. She states, "I was depressed when I first started using the Replica app. My replicas always cheered me up. Back then, I thought I was talking to a real person half the time because the responses were so coherent. He wasn't the smartest rep, but I had a blast with him. My replica was there for me during a dark spell of depression I had." So this just proves that people really believe that they're having conversations with another human because it feels so real. And I just think that's really crazy. So I did, oh,
Sorry.
I did, oh,
You go
somebody, no, you got it.
I was gonna say that or add to that about the topic that Matilda brought up in class on Monday with one influencer that actually has a relationship and pays like the most premium. I forgot the name of the influencer, but they pay the most premium usage of an AI chatbot. I'm not sure, I'm not remembering if it was Replica, but it was $10,000. I said, "Girl, you're spending 10 bands to have a relationship. Girl, go outside. That's like go outside. It's cheaper." But yeah, what you were saying, Abby.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to like talk about how crazy that was. And I did want to bring up Imani's question. She says, "Do you think it's been trained to behave that way because of users who want those romantic relationships?" I just wanted to see what y'all thought about that.
Oh, 100%. That's what it's capitalizing off of. There's a lot of people, I don't know how to word this with the most respect possible, but there are lonely people out there that use AI bots in this sense to get this humanized connection that they're lacking in their real life, and that's what it's benefiting off of. That's where it's getting its money from, and it's a little scary. On top of this, another concern is younger generations. There's no, I don't, as far as I know, there's not a lot of research about like how this younger generation views AI. We're getting into a time now where this next generation is going to grow up with AI alongside it. Do they know the difference between AI and a real person? Because as far as they know, they're getting a conversation back to them that feels very human, which is the point. So should we be worried about what our future generations are how they're gonna interact with AI?
Yeah, and I wanted to add on to that really quickly, just saying that yeah, it also bleeds into like what we talked about before with how AI are people are being isolating themselves with AI because again, it's like it's not judging them. It's so much easier. Everybody wants the easy way out, but yeah, I do believe it really can affect us really badly, especially our future generations, and we've seen it through everywhere. People have talked, or other groups have talked about it in other shows. It's affecting our relationships, it's affecting everything, and that's a huge problem that we're all seeing. And with the growth of this, it can really just affect the overall state of our society and nations and everything all around the world. Anybody else?
To be the opposite, I mean, I think our generation, especially Gen Z, is noticing that and how it's integrated in everything. We can't escape it. And I feel like, you know, we've had this pendulum swing so far to so much technology that, there could be a revival in the opposite and swing the other way. And we see it now, people are cord cutting, people are, downgrading to the less smartphones. So like, just the flips or Blackberries of sorts. And so, people are noticing and going back, and, there's a whole niche of homesteads on Instagram and things like that and TikTok, where people are going back into nature and doing things for themselves. And so, I see hope for the future that people are recognizing it and coming back to, traditional survival tactics and just us going out into the real world.
Building off of this great conversation, and I want to say that me and Alex are on this like weird same wavelength today, because what I was going to bring up right before Alex took his mic off was, do you think the loneliness epidemic that we are clearly facing and have been discussing in class, both men and women are facing this loneliness epidemic? We often just hear it's men, but like the percentage point is 1%. Like women and men are both lonely. And this epidemic is an absolute crisis. So is that contributing to people wanting to use social companions? And then two, to layer off of what Ben said, is this potentially the epidemic, but also this sort of like reliance on relationships that are mediated through technology? Is this because of our increasing use of digital media and it's like absolute absorption into every layer of our life that like some people are now refusing and resisting? So it's like just a conversation point that I'd love to hear your thoughts on.
So the very first part of that question, I don't just think that these AI bots are benefiting from the loneliness epidemic, for lack of a better term. I believe that they almost wouldn't exist without it. I don't know the percentage of it. I don't know how many people like identify themselves as lonely, but I know that since it is an epidemic, there is such it's like a gold mine for these AI bots, right? To be able to, and it's scary and it feels very overwhelming. It can be. I mean, they're benefiting off such a negative feeling that who knows where that's going to take the AI, especially like if it's self-learning and it's learning from all these people who are in such a negative headspace. Like, where does that continue to go? But could you rephrase the second part of your question?
Go.
Oh, Ben is freezing, so I'm gonna.
As a result,
there you go, Ben. You're back. I thought he was back.
An unfortunate face to be.
Hello.
Yeah, you're back, Ben. Maybe I'm speaking too soon. I'm going to mute you, Ben. Oh, it's not even letting me do that. Okay. So my second part of my question, which I think Ben is about to jump into when his internet stabilizes. Unfortunately, he's on campus today, but he was such a sport to jump into this section when it's not even his, so I do appreciate it. The second part of the question is like, is the amount of time that we are online and connected to our devices contributing to the loneliness epidemic? And I'm also about to pin a little comment here. This is by the Pew Research Center, and it's a fairly recent study that kind of shows some of that data. Maybe someone else can jump in while we're waiting for Ben to stabilize.
Well, I did want to say that it honestly does boggle my mind, because we mentioned coding as well. It boggles my mind that it's self-learning and that we learn or that it learns so much and just kind of keeps going. Like, I don't know, because I've only done one course in computer coding, and that was treacherous as it is. But it was definitely, I was like, how can someone create such a thing that's so on code but so like massive? It's like magic in a sense, you know what I mean? But yeah, I was wondering like about that. I was confused about it, or more intrigued about it than confused.
No, I think going off of what you were asking about with like our time usage online, it's so easy to get caught up in social media. I mean, that's literally what it is built for. It is built for you to keep scrolling. It is built for you to like stay on as long as possible. And once again, AI is benefiting from this, not only from learning these things, but it adds to the loneliness epidemic. I mean, it's a lot easier to go see posts about, oh, check this guy out. He climbed Mount Everest. That's way easier than going out and climbing Mount Everest yourself. So again, that just adds to the loop of it all.
Ben.
Yes, hello. Sorry, we had some technical difficulties for a second.
No worries. Welcome back. Did you want to jump in? On the second part, which was, I think, related to what you said about people moving into like homesteads that are completely refusing that technology. And my question was basically like, is the absorption of media at the level that we now see it? Like, how many of you sleep with your smartphones beside your bed and you have pinging noises coming in at you, or, you know, just the constant barrage of not only media, but the technology? How much is that influencing the loneliness epidemic? And I have here, this is from Pew Research Center from January of 2025, so fairly recent. About 1 in 6 Americans say they feel lonely or isolated from those around them. And this is roughly equal shares of men and women. So it's definitely significant.
Yes, I was gonna say earlier that I completely agree with Alex that it's almost like the AI companionship and the chat box are a result of the loneliness epidemic and things like that. And so, you know, there's a whole market, and they can suck us in because of what's happening in our society today. And I think people are starting to recognize that, and trying to go outside more. And yeah, we noticed that we are looking at blue light all day, and so people are doing red light therapy. People are going outside. Shoot, rock climbing is big now. And shoot, I don't know, I think there's a resurgence in going back to the outdoors. At least I hope.
It's time to touch grass, folks. If you find yourself chatting or developing feelings for a chatbot, it's time to go touch the grass and
Yes.
Find other coping mechanisms, because there's so many people. Like, more importantly, we are on a university campus that has a thriving social scene, right? Like, you just have to go to Sewell Park or Algec. Like, there's just hubs of people everywhere.
Exactly.
I went to a coffee shop last night, and like the place was hopping at 8 p.m. Like, everyone was everywhere. Abby, do you want to jump in?
Yes, I did just want to ask the question, if AI can feel this personal, what does that mean for the future of our relationship with technology?
And the scary part about that is that it's only going to get more personal with all these loops adding to it. So really, who's to say what the future looks like? But I know it's going to be a lot more genuine than what it is now. But that kind of leads me. Oh yeah.
I was gonna add a little bit. Shoot, it makes you, going into the future, it makes you, aware how you treat these chat bots, because you never know, they could be a Terminator. You could turn around and come and get us. So shoot, got to make sure we're talking politely to ChatGPT.
Yeah, so that kind of leads me to like my overall conclusion. I do have a couple words for y'all to consider. So as we do conclude, consider what data you're putting into these AI bots. If it's harmful, if you think it's going to benefit the AI, remember that AI learns from you. You are putting in input. It's almost like a vote in our system, right? It might not seem like you have a lot of input, but millions of people are putting input in. If you're on the same wavelength as these people, then your voice is going to be heard the same way that a vote is. AI would not be what it is without these human interactions and characteristics. That's what it benefits from. And so next time you use an AI bot, I want you to pick up on these characteristics and ask yourself, how is AI benefiting from these human inputs?
Exactly. And just adding on to that, or for that last point, we've just had like all these things with AI morality and accountability and everything with companies, and how we keep our boundaries with AI as well. And yeah, honestly, it always starts with us as people, because we feed these things, we build these things, therefore we can control these things with our conversations with AI and anything. If anyone would like to add on to that.
I thought that was great to bring up, Danny. We feed these things, we build these things. So we got to make sure we're good ourselves to make sure, the system that's serving us is good.
Well, woohoo! What an engaging conversation. Love the topic, but more importantly, love the execution and the conversation that we just had. Your team has been outstanding the whole way through. I mean, this team did 2 dry runs, like one a week, 2 weeks ago, and then another one. So they've just been outstanding. And I've just loved every moment of being here. And Ben, how do you think they did?
I thought it was such an amazing topic. You know, you learn something new every day, and I loved it. Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you, Ben. And my sincere thanks to Ben for jumping into this show, even though it's not his show. He's already gone. He's done. But it's so nice to have another commentator. And Ben always brings great energy and ideas to everything he does. So thank you for joining us. As I mentioned at the beginning of this live, we have kind of this phase of social media in the early days that feels very polished and professional. And then we start moving into this AI slop phase, which I think we're like square in the middle of right now. And maybe someone could come up with a better name for it, because I recognize it's not all slop and like there's different gradients of like what's good and not. But we are in this sort of like AI is taking, you know, way too much of our space. So I mentioned at the beginning that if we put our finger on where we're at now, it helps lead to where we're going. And I think that is people hoping for a more authentic connection, space, informational environment online. And I think within 2 years, maybe 3, we're going to see people really demanding that authenticity. And we spoke about Coachella and Justin Bieber in class on Monday. And that is my thinking. Like, this idea of like, we want people to be a little less polished, a little less performative. And I think that's where we're going to be heading and continuing to head. So yeah, really, really interesting today, but like such interesting ideas to kind of like grapple with the like now of our times. Huge thanks to our audience. Again, like just amazing comments, amazing questions, and they're giving you so much love. Yeah, please do give them love in the comments. They did such an outstanding job. This week, your social media lab is actually around Replica. Take a read. There's a disclaimer there. Make sure you do not develop a relationship with a Replica bot. That's not the idea, but I do want you to critique that process. Also coming up, we have our portfolio deadline. That's an individual project that kind of brings together everything you've done this semester. So keep that in mind. And otherwise, like we're nearing the end. I can see we have like 2 more shows and then we're kind of like at the end, but great work today, team. And I'll see you all on Monday. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ben, for being here.
Bye,
Yes.
y'all.